What's going on, everybody? Welcome into let me change the banner real quick. This is not around the 412. This is Steelers Now Postgame with Zachary Smith and Alan Saunders. Alan, what's going on?
Not too much. Just wrapped up a thrilling Steelers victory here at Northwest Stadium, which is northeast of Washington. And, man, what a crazy game. I still honestly, I kind of felt good about the Steelers' chances. I honestly feel like when we did our predictions on Friday, the game played out very similarly to the way I was expecting. But still I'm in shock a bit at the way this game ended. Very, very crazy game. Steelers win by a whisker here in Washington to move to 7-2.
Yes. I could have gone, honestly, without the Jaylen Warren fumble there, making it a little bit closer, and there's some theatrics throughout, but literally inches away on that Zach Ertz catch from seeing what could have been the other side of this result here. But it's interesting to me, Alan, there was 4 comments before we even started recording. It's interesting to me how different the comments are when you get a win as opposed to getting a loss here. People are very excited. But anyways, just on the surface of this one, you said it went very similarly, just script-wise to how you thought it would play out. What were your, initial takeaways from this thing?
I thought they did a really nice job of limiting Jaden Daniels' ability to hurt him with his legs. He moved in the pocket a little bit, and but there wasn't that run around, big play explosiveness. Right. It wasn't, and he wasn't killing them, getting 5, 6, 7 yards a chunk with his legs over and over and over again. They also weren't gashed in the running game like they were last week. I thought they played better against the run this week against a better running football team. Washington, one of the best running football teams in the league coming in. I thought they shored up some stuff against the run. Obviously, they took too many penalties. They let Terry McLaurin beat them deep twice, and that's going to happen. But I really thought Washington was going to be able to move the ball against the Steelers. I really did. This offense is too good to hold them down for 60 minutes. I thought it was going to come down to the red zone. The Steelers actually didn't play that well in the red zone. They gave up 3 touchdowns from the 1-yard line. They didn't get a turnover, but they got a turnover on downs when they needed to. Got a big special teams play. And, I thought they had a very resilient game because there was a lot of things that did not necessarily go well for them, even when they were playing okay.
Yeah, I had a take that I put out on Twitter, and I understand this could sound very stupid, and I get it, but this is just kind of the way that my brain works. And it was basically it wasn't always pretty, obviously, but I was almost happy that we had a game that went like this and they came out on the winning side of, because I feel like you have to have those battles throughout the season to kind of test yourself. And also just to see that the offense is capable of doing something like this, playing from behind. And when everything doesn't go right, they still end up on the winning side of things.
Yeah, I actually talked to a couple of the vets in the locker room after the game, Patrick Queen and Van Jefferson, about that very thing, about, hey, 7-2, you just passed halfway through the season. There's a long way to go, but does the way that they've won some of these games, and this one in particular against a really good opponent, mean a little bit more than the 7 next to their name? And in my mind, I'm kind of thinking back to 2020 in that regard. Remember, that team, of course, starts 11-0, but I think the whole time we were kind of watching it as a bit of a house of cards, right? And I don't feel that way about this team right now. Not saying they're going to win, 7 out of every 9 going forward, but I feel like they've earned what they have. And today was a very good example of that, where this is a really good football team. They didn't play very well. The Steelers didn't play that well. The refs were awful. God, we'll talk about that. But they had to earn this and then some, and they really did. And on the road, I think that's a strong sign for this team moving forward into December and January.
Yeah, I don't want to jump around too much. I'm trying to pay attention to what the comments are saying too, and hitting on what people want to hear about as well. Obviously, that's what we want to do. So if you guys have questions, if you guys have thoughts, we want those for sure. One of the first things that caught my eye was the Alex Highsmith. We've gotten a couple people comment obviously about Alex Highsmith, and that's the one bad thing I guess that came out of this is we don't know the severity of that ankle injury or what's going to come of that. What a frustrating season it's had to be for Alex Highsmith. Obviously got hurt in training camp, worked his way back, then he gets hurt with basically the same thing again during the season, misses a couple weeks, comes back, plays a couple weeks, and now this with the ankle. We don't know the severity, but man, that Preston Smith trade certainly already paying dividends.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Mike Williams trade did okay today too. I think
Yeah.
you get a nice win for Omar Khan here. Yeah, Alex Highsmith looked like he was just trying to get out of the way of Jaden Daniels. Looked like a typical ankle sprain. He was hobbling around the locker room on one foot with crutches, like a madman. So, I mean, obviously he doesn't think he's hurt that bad. I would say that's probably at least a couple weeks though. I mean, just looking at
Mhm.
the severity of the injury, those are generally not like big, serious, bad like season enders, but probably looking at a couple weeks. Najee Harris rolled his ankle. He said he will know more tomorrow. He got it rolled up on. That's kind of that, you hate to say high ankle sprain territory, but it's possible. He
Yeah.
also seemed to be feeling okay, so we'll see where things go with those guys. But um, could be two major injuries, but I don't think I'm getting major. Oh, Dante Jackson, not sure, just a hamstring, but I have no real update on the severity there. But it did not seem like any of the three of those were like season enders. Obviously,
Okay.
Harris
Well, I
returned, but yeah.
yeah, and that's obviously best case scenario when you see things like that happen. Like Alex to be, like flailing around on the ground, holding that thing in pain. That did not look good. So, yeah, we'll wait for more information to come out before continuing to speak on that. Another thing that I saw multiple people mention, so I feel worth bringing up, was Joey Porter Jr. in this one. He had 3 penalties. Obviously, Terry McLaurin was certainly going to get his against him and certainly did so. What did you make of Joey Porter Jr.'s game? You mentioned the officials feeling like they didn't have a very good game. So did that kind of play into that, where people may be making too much of the performance of Joey Porter Jr. in this one?
Yeah, I didn't think Joey was that bad. I thought all three of the penalties against him were, I mean, fairly light penalties. Like I don't think they were, obvious calls. They're called. This crew calls that tight, and they did all night. They called Dante Jackson multiple times as well. Um,
Yeah.
I thought Porter's came in bad spots, but I don't know. The one they got both of them, Porter and Jackson. Um, and I thought he had really good coverage on the one ball down the sideline. And I honestly kind of feel like you could see having 3 penalties already get in his head a little bit, where he kind of took down the physicality just a little bit and gave McLaurin 1 inch on the sideline, and then he took it because that's that dude. The big play, I mean, that's just a soft spot in zone coverage. It was a nice play design to pull one of the 2 underneath guys out from the throwing lane, and then the other one, I couldn't see who it was from the replay. Might have been Peyton Wilson. Really crashed down on the play fake and left that big throwing lane. And then, that's not really on Joey. I mean, that's just zone defense and its drawbacks more so than it is bad coverage from anyone. He's got a deep third there, and McLaurin is running up the seam in between his zone and Minka Fitzpatrick's zone. And that's just a really good play call for that defense. I don't really like. It's not like he did anything wrong there.
Yeah, I want to talk about the performance of the offense. I see a couple people talking about that in here as well. Russell Wilson obviously didn't have his best day, but played well when it mattered. Made that really nice throw off his back foot to Mike Williams, as you brought up earlier in the show. But this was a game to me. I thought that both teams were going to be able to move the ball better than they did. I thought the Steelers would be able to run the ball more effectively than they did and be able to hit on some of those deep shots, those moon balls that we've talked about. What did you make of the offensive performance as a whole, and why did Washington have the success that they did against it in your mind?
Stack the box, double cover George Pickens, and hope nobody else can beat us was the mindset of the Washington Commanders, and it worked for 58 minutes. Like that's basically what happened. Like that they stacked the box. They did not give Najee Harris very much room to run. It was an extremely physical game in the trenches. I talked to about 4 people who were bleeding today in that locker room. It was, I mean, guys are beat up. Najee talked about how physical it was. Mason McCormick talked about how physical it was. Those are not guys who shy away from contact.
Yeah, right.
And if they're talking about how physical it was, then it was physical. And I thought there was a war of attrition there. And I thought the Steelers did not demonstratively win it, but I thought they got better as the game went on, and the opposite happened to Washington. Like, as things progressed, the Steelers' offense moved the ball better and better, incrementally. There was not a big jump. There was never like an aha moment, but they got enough to get that last drive when they needed it. had it all the way to the 1 before Warren fumbles, made themselves a little extra work, and then get it in the end zone with Mike Williams. I thought the passing game, Russ really was not connected to Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin or his tight ends today. There were a couple plays out there that he didn't find. He had Skoranek wide open on a deep shot early and couldn't find him. He had Darnell completely uncovered on one play, and I didn't think the offensive line pass protected very well. He had guys in his face a lot, and then guys didn't come down with the ball. Van didn't track one in the air. Calvin didn't track one in the air. Calvin dropped one. I thought it was a struggle for everyone except for 14, who, even though it was double covered, was still the best player on the offense. And then they finally got the one that you kind of felt was coming eventually. To Mike Williams there to win it. What a script for that one. The NFL script writers were on one. There's the Emmy is locked up right here.
On Ben St. Juste, which is the corner that we've talked about, has been getting gots for Washington on those types of plays quite a bit this year. So great job dialing it up. But that was interesting to me. I saw Mike DeFabo put it out there on Twitter that Russell Wilson was asked about that play, and that wasn't even supposed to be Mike Williams in that spot. Calvin Austin was dealing with something injury-wise as well, and Russell went over to Mike on the sidelines and said, that's going to be you in that spot. So, and it's not something that Mike said he was even doing in practice, was that play.
Najee said he didn't even know the play call. He just knew what he was supposed to do. He didn't even know.
Talk about moving
like
on or jumping on a moving train.
The play call comes in like, whatever, rocket, trips right, Colorado, blue 14. Mike, you're running a go. Like that's the play call as it comes in.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we were talking about like these receivers that aren't named George Pickens, obviously excluding Mike Williams before the acquisition, that they were, moving in the right direction. We thought Calvin was starting to play well. Van was starting to play well since the addition of Russell Wilson. But kind of the way that we've talked about this, I mean, at least upon first watch to me and the way that you felt about this, they certainly didn't have their best day. They weren't in sync with Russell Wilson. Do you think it was a matter of that? Were they not getting open? Was Russ not seeing them? What was the reason that they weren't on the same page today?
I think this was just Washington looking at what the Steelers did to the Jets and the Giants and figuring it out and saying, okay, we're not going to let them do that to us. And the Steelers are going to have an answer for that. And whether that's Jaylen Warren and some outside runs, whether that's some quarterback run. I thought the quarterback run was actually there a lot more than Russ took it today. He had some trouble exiting the pocket cleanly. There were a couple plays where somebody just got a hand on him, and if he'd have gotten one more step, he had like 7-8 easy free yards to run. He just wasn't able to get there. So whether it's Jaylen Warren on the edge, the screen game, Russ running, or, getting something working with Mike Williams, one of his other receivers, the Steelers were going to have more than Najee Harris and deep balls to George Pickens. That can't be the whole offense. So the Commanders were able to focus on those things. They were able to try to take them away for a large part of the game. And that's why the Steelers did get some big plays, but they struggled to move the ball consistently. And I think, the addition of Mike Williams is going to have to be that thing that they can use to move forward if teams are going to continue to take this tack.
What did you make of the game called by Arthur Smith in this one?
I thought he did a really nice job of not getting frustrated by okay. Like, it was a game where it was always in range. They never needed to press, but things weren't going very well. And I thought he did a nice job of sort of staying the course. That you knew the plays were there. You watched what Washington was doing, and you said, eventually Calvin's going to get a freer release, or Russ is going to see one of these wide open guys, or like you knew that the Washington was playing so aggressively that it was going to happen eventually. And I think Art did a really nice job of not forcing it and just letting it happen. I thought it was a nice job. They weren't playing that well. The offensive line probably had their worst game of the year. If that doesn't ever make the play caller look good. I don't think Russ played all that well in the first half especially. But I think he did a pretty nice job of just not getting greedy when things weren't going well.
Yeah, no, I like that for sure, because I felt like things could have spiraled, right out of the half. They take a 10-point lead, Washington does, but then the Steelers answer right back. Again, to your point, and not panicking, they were running the ball. Yeah, Like they
Yeah.
were willing to still run the ball. They didn't feel like we got to take deep shot, and throw on all 3 downs to be able to try to get into like a shootout. So I feel like no, there's definitely credence to that point as well. Appreciate the $2 here from G. He said any Highsmith news. We talked about it. He's on crutches. Not a lot more to say other than that as we sit here right now. Feel good about it not being season ending, I guess, right? That's probably the only thing that we can say at this juncture.
Yeah, I mean, on his crutches, he like shouldered me out of the way, and the locker room was like, "Come through." So like, he's
Okay.
clearly he's not laid up by any stretch of the imagination. I think
Gotcha.
he's going to be okay. A couple weeks probably.
Okay. Was there anything else from the offensive side, or do you feel like we kind of hit on all the points there? Because there's some things I want to bring up defensively as well. But if you have something else that was on
Just
your
want to
mind,
shout out Russell Wilson. His cadence is awesome. And I was in the press
well,
box, and I was like, he's going to get Johnny Newton. They got a first round pick. He's a really high motor guy. We talked about him on Friday as like a guy
yeah,
with really like elite athleticism, high get off, but you can also get him out of his lane. You can use his athleticism against it. Well, they did it in a different way. Literally everyone in the press box is like, oh my God, they're going for it. And I'm just like, no, they're trying to draw him offside, and it's going to be Johnny Newton. And then it was like, it
wow,
was a very, like, it was a
look
very,
at that.
like, that was the target of that attack, and it was successful.
Yeah, I appreciated the little bit of the dance moves too from Russell Wilson as well, following getting that. Russ was having fun out there. You love to see it. All right, defensively, the first player that I want to bring up, just because I feel like came to the forefront immediately how much more comfortable he's starting to look. I'm not saying that this was the first game where I felt like he had an impact, but Patrick Queen was all over the place, especially early in this one. I just feel like week in and week out, he's looking more and more comfortable. What did you see from him specifically? And then we can dive into the whole of this.
Tone setter. That's what I saw. He from the very beginning, he was flying around out there. He was making tackles for loss. He was running down Daniels. He was the guy. Like when you talk about Daniels not beating them with his legs, it's him v Queen 1-on-1. Like that's how that's going down. And I thought Queen won that matchup pretty demonstratively. Like I don't know how many rushing yards Daniels ended up with, but it wasn't very many. Like 25, if that. It was almost no contribution with his
Three
legs.
three rushes for 5 yards. Jaden Daniels.
There you go. 3 rushes. Jaden Daniels 3 rushes for 5 yards is like a is like a it's like a Madden achievement unlocked for Patrick Queen, right? Like that. Like nobody's done that to him yet. And I thought
60
not
as a
only did he
team
do
for
that,
Washington.
he was making big plays everywhere.
Yeah.
I thought he was awesome. I thought this was the best he's looked. He was one of those guys that was bleeding on me in the locker room.
Oh, geez.
Just a guy that understood, I think, that this was a big game, and they were really wanting to win this one. Like this, you have to play every game, and you have to bring it every time. But I think this was a real measuring stick game for this team in a lot of ways. I think this is the best offense that they've played. I think this is the best team they've played, and I think it really showed.
Do we have to, like, every week do this where we give flowers to Cam Hayward and talk about the people that were idiots for thinking that he had nothing left in the tank? 2 sacks today. He was awesome as well, setting the tone up front. The front seven I thought played well pretty much as a whole, but like Cam was just wrecking shop. Like there's that sack that he got to force them out. Like I'm thinking if Washington gets a field goal here, we could really be in trouble. That could seal this one. I thought we needed a turnover, but it turns out that sack was obviously just as good to get the ball back to the offense. But what do you make of Cam Hayward's game and just the way that he's playing right now?
Unreal. Unreal. He's playing so well against the run and against the pass. Had 2 sacks, had a pass broken up on a 3rd down, got him off the field. High motor has always been his thing. It still is. I thought the Commanders did not run the ball very well in general. That's mostly his game. But to get some pass rush too, and this is a dangerous guy with his legs. You can't let him get free. Pass rushing a guy like Jaden Daniels is very hard. You have to be explosive enough to beat your offensive lineman, but very in control of your own body. It is extremely difficult. Like I joked this week, like you wouldn't even need to block me. I could come in free and I never even lay a finger on him. Like Cam Hayward beat his guy calmly, coolly, collectively, wraps up the quarterback twice. 5 sacks on the year. Man, Contract's looking good, Smitty.
Yep, it's looking very good. What did you make of the defensive performance as a whole? People obviously talked about the TJ Watt holding, non-holding in the end zone being a thing. You brought up the officials and stuff like that. That was not a case. Like, people actually could use that one. That wasn't a case of TJ going for that signature rip move and getting put in a chokehold. This was legitimately one that was missed, in my opinion.
That was easy a hold. I'm beside myself that that's not called. It has to be called. That's terrible. And I thought it was a poorly officiated game all the way around. They tried to set a very strict standard early. I'm fine with that. But then I felt like they had a hard time keeping it. You got ticky-tack penalties on Joey Porter and Dante Jackson. Calvin Austin gets jammed for 15 yards on a third down. No call. You got, just the hold on Zach Frazier that comes from the back judge after the play is just a total phantom call. I'm not a person that harps on the officials very often.
Yeah.
They have a very hard job, but I thought that was really egregiously bad today.
No, I mean, I agree, but it's like I'm always glad when you're able to kind of also tell me that, because I'm like, am I being objective? Am my fan blinders on a little bit here? I try to be as down the middle as I can while being a fan, but I'm also glad every time that you're able to kind of back up the thought that I'm having. But just in terms of the defense as a whole, we talked obviously about Jaden Daniels not being able to do his thing with his legs in this one and how they limited him. Obviously, Austin Eckler had some plays. Terry McLaurin got his, but what did you make of the defensive performance as a whole?
Yeah, I thought the zone coverage left some things to be desired. There were open guys like that. Steelers are pretty fortunate. There was like about 3 big drops in this game that looked like they were going to be big plays that didn't go. Zacchaeus had 2 of them. I think it was one of the tight ends had the other one. And, those plays make a huge difference. And so I thought they got a little fortunate. I didn't think their coverage was great. They also did play a lot more man than they have. And I thought you saw Dante Jackson struggle with that a little bit. I think you saw why they've been primarily his own team, because that's what he's good at. And you got him out of his comfort zone a little bit. And I think that's where some of the penalties came from. There's certainly plenty to clean up from this defensive performance, but I don't think they're gonna look at Jaden Daniels' stat line tomorrow and feel anything other than good about the performance against that guy.
Sure. I think we lost Alan for a second, but I hear him again. We got you. You're here.
Okay.
Wait, I heard everything that you said as well. Like, feel good about that performance against that guy, and then it just like froze for a second. But we're back. I wanted to ask you though, if you thought that you saw, or if you were surprised by anything that you saw that they did defensively against Jaden Daniels. Also, the inclusion for the first time this year with Cam Sutton. Did anything that they do maybe surprise you, or what was different about what they did because of his inclusion?
The way they used Cam Sutton surprised me. They used him as a strong safety at times. They played like some like obvious cover one where like it could only be cover one. Like Minka's playing center field and he's the only safety on the field basically. That's new. I think the addition to Sutton gives them some stuff that they haven't done before that they can get to in this defense. I thought Preston Smith looked really good. Obviously, like the things he wasn't doing, or the things he was doing, aren't necessarily new to the defense. Like it's not like they played any differently because he was in there. But I thought he really brought something in terms of that high motor for a bigger guy. The screen game never really got going for Washington. That's something they really like. And I thought he and Queen and Roberts were big parts of shutting that down. I thought Beanie played pretty well too. Most of the time it was McLaurin on the outside or it was the tight ends. I thought he really kept those underneath guys pretty quiet.
Something else that I wanted to bring up. We don't spend like a whole lot of time typically talking about special teams, but the Steelers have been so good at them this year. Washington special teams unit has also been very good this year. Obviously, they were dealing with some injuries in this one too, their special teams group. But just as a whole, like a lot of big plays on both sides from the special teams, both for and against on both sides. Are those just fluky bounces? What did you make of the reason that those things happened in this one?
Yeah, so I mean that's what the Steelers have a read on that play. They have an idea that that's coming. with the jammer coming down the line, leaving Pierre out there. Washington is obviously expecting Pierre to follow him down to block him. And especially the guy on your sideline, teams will leave him out there and like hope he gets lost. You know what I mean? Like kind of hope they forget about him over there. And so they brought the jammer down. Nobody circled back, and Miles Killebrew made the read. That's a read like outside of like some very narrow game situations where like a punt is maybe just as good for you as a first down. If they leave that guy that open, Killebrew is supposed to take the ball and throw it. Like that's not a, hey, this is the spot the coach picked to go for a fake punt. That is a, hey, the other team screwed up and left our guy uncovered, and we're going to throw it to him. You know, it's like Tom Brady taking a free play. Like that's what they have.
Even
right
though
there.
Mike Tomlin apparently did shoulder the blame for that in the presser, like
I mean, big man, but James Pierre said we practiced that all week and I caught it every time. So things happen. That's football. But they kind of knew that was coming, and they were ready for it, and they made the right play, and they didn't execute it. And you know, like the other big play on special teams is the Commanders trying to field a punt at the 10-yard line and bobbling it and turning it over. And they did what they were supposed to do, and they didn't execute too. Nobody's out there like flipping out because they tried to field the punt. Like you do what you're supposed to do and you execute. That's what you're supposed to do there. They didn't execute. It hurt them. It really flipped. I thought it really changed the whole game. If they complete that and Pierre goes off running and he might have had 30 or 40 yards because he's pretty fast. It could have been a touchdown. Like, I mean, it's one-on-one with it. I don't know if Washington's punt returner does a lot of tackle drills, but like that could have been a touchdown easily. And if that happens, man, this game could have been a rout. I thought it really changed the whole complexion of the game. It's football. Like it happens. That's why you got to go play it. And I thought it was the right call for everyone involved. Though they just didn't make the play.
Yeah, with the fake punting, I was going to ask you. So Pierre's the left side gunner on that one, but I saw later in the game Ben Skowronek was on that left side as the gunner. How was that determined? And was the only reason that he was like left uncovered like that because it was a DB as a receiver? Like, what's the thought process there?
Well, I mean, if you're going to leave one uncovered, you want to leave the cornerback. But also, I do think like blending into the sideline is the thing there, right? Where you have the white jersey over there alone with the white. Yeah. All the white jerseys on the Steelers sideline. It's like, oh, he's not over there. Forget about him. Don't worry about it. And, you know, most of the time, teams are going to respond to that jammer coming down, but the gunner coming down. But nobody on Washington was paying attention that he did not to signal to say, hey, somebody's got to get over there. You know, or we got to take this block off. The other thing I really like about doing that, by the way, is that how many times the rest of the year you think teams are going to send their jammer down to try to block a punt? Like, having seen that on tape once, like,
right?
Probably not going to face an all-out punt rush the rest of the year now.
That's true. Yeah. So, I mean, it sucks that they didn't obviously execute the play, but I had no problem with that. And again, it's not even like a necessarily play call; it's a check because of what Washington did. So, it is what it is.
It's no different than Jaylen Warren fumbling or Russ throwing an interception, or you know, they're all. I mean, it's an impactful play, but I don't think you should treat it any differently than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Alan, do you have anything else? Any other takeaways from this one on the surface before you go back and get another viewing experience?
No, I think that's all I got. You got anything from the audience you want to grab here? I don't know if there's. Did we get to everything?
I was trying to bring. A lot of people were more just saying thoughts that I was trying to work in. You know, obviously about Joey Porter Jr. I got the Cam Sutton thing, TJ getting held, and how the refs were in this one. Highsmith update / non-update. Yeah, I mean, I don't really see anything else within here. If you guys have any quick questions you want us to get to within the next, minute, we'll give you. We got. I see we made our way to some Commanders fans as well in the chat.
Oh, nice. Welcome. Hey, that's a good football team, man. This is a hang your hat on it kind of win for the Steelers. That is a really good football team.
I feel like if you're not a fan of either team, this was really fun to watch. It was still fun to watch a Steelers fan, but you're obviously if you got high blood pressure or something like that. But as a fan of neither team, if you can just watch this and just enjoy the experience, this is a great way to follow up that Thursday night game between the Ravens and Bengals.
I saw a couple tweets after the Warren fumble of people with their Apple Watch and their heart rate warning. It was one of those kind of games.
Yeah. G said, send me a Permani sandwich. I mean, you keep sending us these super chats. We're going to have to find a way to make that happen for sure. We appreciate you being here. I guess this is the last thing we can get to, Alan. This is the first game out of the second half, out of the bye here, where we said this is going to kind of set the table before we go on this run and start seeing these divisional opponents. Jordan says, what do you think the team is capable of? As we sit here right now, what's your thought on that question?
I asked TJ Watt this question, and he said, we'll find out against Baltimore.
Okay. All right.
But I'm going to leave it.
I'm surprised he even said that, to be honest with you. Like, I was expecting, like, what aren't we capable of or something, like him asking a question back to the question. So I can appreciate that. All right. Well, yeah, we're about to jump into,
I think that, like, so much of what's going to tell the rest of the story of the season is going to be the AFC North. Whether they can win it, getting that home playoff game would be such a big deal. And they got to go win those games. And the schedule is, as we've talked about, brutal. So I think we're going to find out. I don't think we know yet.
For that reason, because of how brutal the schedule is, never apologize for a win. A 1-point win in Washington, the way that it went down, absolutely take it every day of the week. Alan, before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
You can find me in suburban Washington, D.C. for another hour and a half. And then you can find me on Interstate 70 for a long while. Saunders _PGH on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Trying to TikTok a little bit more. Find me on there. Let me know what you want over there. I don't know what to TikTok. Is TikTok a verb? Post? I don't know. PGH Steelers Now, the site's account, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the words so I can get paid. Like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. I will be back shockingly soon with an episode of Steelers Morning Rush at about 9 a.m.
We'll be here
tomorrow.
before you know it. Yep. Snap of the fingers. Actually, one more thing I got to ask before we get out of here, and it's because I forgot to do this, but this is normally, like, I like to lead off with this. Steelers fans, the environment that was there, how they traveled. What did you make of this one?
One of the best ones, to be honest, considering how good this team is and how excited this team's fan base should be about its team right now. Like, It's one thing when you go to Atlanta, which has been like, forever. And I get it. And, like, it's not a historical franchise. It doesn't have, like, all the success. This is a team that's been one of the best teams in the NFL for long stretches, has been really struggling for a while, and should be really excited about this team. And today, it was 60% Steelers fans in the lower bowl. It was insane. The towel thing, total backfire there. I think there were Steelers fans with like 5 of them, out here, it was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. I mean, it certainly came through on the broadcast as well. That's why I had to ask you about it real quick. I'm glad that came to my mind to ask about that, because I always like to for these road venues. Anyways, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell here. If you were on YouTube, we appreciate everybody being part of the live chat. If you're watching back, still leave your comments and let us know what you want us to talk about on the next episode. Steelers Afternoon Drive, topic for Morning Rush, question, all that good stuff. How you feel about the team now sitting at 7-2. If you're listening somewhere else, be sure to leave a 5-star review and subscribe over there. I'm Zachary Smith, PGH. Until next time, for Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in and taking a ride on the post game now. Until next time, we'll talk to you. Bye-bye.